Yeah, hello friends. Welcome to the webinar with Radboud University. And during this webinar, we will
try to press this one.
There's a small technical problem, I think.
Or just suggest some kind of topic that we could discuss in this webinar. And you can access to the chat function by clicking the icon of two square boxes. As well, you can use question mark, and if you press question mark, you will be able to give questions individually. So the structure of this webinar is going to be like this. After our short presentation, we'll move to the Radboud University representatives who will show us slides. And afterwards, in the end of the webinar, we will have a question and answer session. So during that period, we will answer all your questions.
Yeah, guys, we just received a few messages that there were some problem with the connection and someone of you didn't hear us. So I'd like to wonder, please, if you hear us right now, raise your hands. You can do this. You have the hand icon on the left of the screen. Please press the hand button so that we know that you can see us and hear us. Okay, now we see the hands rising, so everything is good right now. And now we would like to introduce you Radboud University representatives.
Yeah, so shortly just about Radboud University. Radboud University can offer you 37 master studies. We have studies in social, technical, humanitarian, biomedicine, and natural sciences. And just a few highlights about them, that is in 2010, this university professors received 2 Nobel Prizes in physics. And in 2015, this university was nominated one of the best universities in Netherlands, and as well in global rankings by the Times Higher Education. This university takes a place of 121st. So just shortly from our side, and I believe our colleagues from Radboud University will represent much more and will give us more information about university and studies available.
Yeah, hi guys, you are online right now.
Hi. Well, nice to meet you. Let me first introduce ourselves a bit. I'm Mark Vlechter-Koning. I'm the International Marketing, Recruitment and Admissions Officer for Nijmegen School of Management in particular, which is one of the faculties of Nijmegen School of Management. And then next to me is, well, maybe you can introduce yourself.
So I'm studying Masters. My name is Vejune. I'm from Lithuania. I came here this year. And I'm studying Master in Creative Industries. So in Arts faculty, Arts and Humanities faculty.
All right. So today we'll be doing a general webinar on Radboud University and telling you about our university, the programs we offer, and why you should study with us, basically. But we're going to start with doing, and of course you can ask questions during the webinar, and I would ask you to type your questions in the channel. So type it in the chat, and then at the end of the webinar there will be room to discuss all these questions, and then we also know which ones we have already discussed and which ones we haven't discussed yet. So again, if you have questions, please type them, and we will respond to them at the end. So maybe we could start a bit about how it is to study here in the Netherlands. as compared to Lithuania? So you could probably say less about that.
I guess the okay, so I guess the biggest difference is that here in the Netherlands, you are studying you're not studying 6 courses for the whole semester, but the semester is divided in 2 parts, in 2 blocks, in other words. So you're studying 2 or 3 courses during one block, then you take an exams, then pass them, and then you start the new one. So it means that you have more time to focus on particular subjects, and you have more time to prepare for the exams. Also, I guess that hierarchy between teachers and students are different. It's not that strict. Here you can you can ask questions whenever you want. If you don't understand anything, you can always ask, and also teachers always help you, and you can disagree with them if you can argument your own opinion as well. And I think it reflects in the academic writing as well, because here, if you have to write a paper, you're gonna need to write a lot of papers and essays, and in these you have to express your own opinion. Your opinion is what's important, not the references and other scholars' ideas, but your own opinion. So I guess this is the main difference, and of course the quality of the studies I can compare now because I was studying bachelor in Lithuania, so the quality is much more higher.
We really think that's what you said is really important as well. We think 2 things are very important in educating people here. One is that it's small scale, so that you have a lot of contact with your teachers, that they are available and that you can talk to them. And the second one is that you develop yourself as an academic. So that doesn't mean that you don't have to know about theory, you don't have to know how to refer to other authors, but we also think it's very important that in addition to understanding the discipline you're studying, you also learn to form your own opinion about what you think about the discipline and how you want to approach it yourself. So I think that's very well put, and those are really core values you want to transmit here at Radboud University. So I want to talk a bit now about how it is to study in the Netherlands. Well, the Netherlands is not that far from Lithuania, fortunately, and it's in the center, basically at the heart of Western Europe. So from here, it's quite convenient to get to a lot of places in Western Europe. You can go to Amsterdam or Brussels or even Cologne, sorry, by train, or you could take flights to London or Paris or Berlin, or car trips. So it's a very good location, it's very accessible, and it's in very close proximity to various airports. Some traditional Dutch things which you might know, which you might not know, is that we have a lot of windmills. In general, we are a very flat country, so that means that we use a lot of wind power, and we also have a lot of water everywhere. We build dikes, we bury canals, so that's something that you will always see when you come to the Netherlands, and it's really part of our culture. Yeah, as I said, close proximity to airports. Then studying in the Netherlands in particular is always a good option. As I said, Radboud University, but Dutch universities in general, offer excellent education and research. Our universities are among the best in the world, and we really pride ourselves on it, and it's, as I said, our core value. Furthermore, we try to educate students to become entrepreneurial pioneers, so to make sure that they are, as I said, innovative and think about themselves and think for themselves, and understand what it is to solve complex problems. So learn by solving problems as opposed to learn by reproducing theories or by just writing papers all the time. So there's a lot of interaction, a lot of analytical skill we try to apply. Furthermore, society, there's a lot of people from all different kind of countries over the whole world at the university in Nijmegen, at Radboud University, and you can see that in the student population. You can always find somebody to mingle with, and the best part is that we have very high English proficiency. So everybody can talk to you very well. If you talk English, then we can always talk English back to you. And in that sense, it's no problem getting used here, I guess. But maybe you can elaborate on that a bit more.
Yeah, I can stress a few points. First of all, about interactivity during class. So classes are organized like that you are discussing all the time with your classmates and with your professor. It's not like professor is just telling you all the facts and you are passively listening it and I don't know, conspecting it, but you're actually participating in the discussion and taking a position, taking a point, and expressing your own opinion and listening to other students and working together in the group. So it's very interactive in that way. Another thing was that multicultural society, it's definitely true, because in the class, for example, in my class, half of the students are Dutch and half of them are from all over the world, from Brazil, from Colombia, from Taiwan, South Korea, and other European countries. So it's very interesting, and you can learn a lot from your classmates, actually. And we are talking that we're actually learning from each other as much as we learn from our professors and from our handbooks, because everyone brings their own example, their own case studies, their own perspectives, their own positions. So it's very interesting in that sense. And it's also easy to get to know people, to make some friends, because a lot of people here are new. They are not living here in the Netherlands all the time, but they just came here for studies. So it's easy to find friends. And talking about Dutch language, so it's probably a little bit complicated when you go to the supermarket and everything is in Dutch, all the descriptions and names and everything. But in other sense, you can always communicate in English everywhere in the market, and all people speaks in English, and even kids speaks English very well. So it's not a problem. You don't really need to learn Dutch in order to survive here.
Yeah, so that's a really big upside. And finally, of course, what's also very nice is that it's very cost efficient. The quality of education you get here for the tuition fees you pay is just generally very high, and that's a good reason to be here. So about our education system in the Netherlands, we have two types of higher education, which might be a bit confusing, but we have research universities, which is what Radboud University is. We really focus on academic excellence and on incorporating research and education together. And then you have universities of applied sciences, who are more focused on offering people particular job perspectives and less focused on the scholarly and academic part, but more so on the applied part of whatever they're learning.
Can I interrupt you? Yeah, I think in Lithuania we have universities and we have collegias. It's like college. So these are more like those applied science.
Yeah, I think that's a good parallel. So Nijmegen then. Why study in Nijmegen? Nijmegen is the best city to study. I really think so. I studied here for 5 years before I got the job here. And it's very cozy in some sense, that it's really a student city and people know each other, and it's very nice. It has a really nice old town, and there's a lot of activities there always. In the summer, in the winter, there's bars, there's festivals, there's always things to do. But at the same time, it's also big enough to have everything you need. I mean, there's good shopping here, there's plenty of green spaces around where you can sit and relax. As I said, bars and terraces. So really everything you need out of a city and about a really medium-sized city is here. It's also very safe, like any other city in the Netherlands, to be honest. And it's also very easily accessible. As I said, you can easily take a train and be in Amsterdam from here within 1.5 hours, or be in Utrecht. You take a 2.5-hour train, you're in Brussels or in Antwerp, and you could go by train to Berlin or Paris, or take a train to a nearby airport, which we have 3 or 4 of, and from there fly out. So it's very accessible and very well located.
Yeah, and it's also nice that Eindhoven is not that far away. It's only an hour with the train, and you can get flights from Eindhoven to Kaunas or Vilnius, direct flights, to Lithuania. So it's easy.
Then some facts and figures about our university. We have both international bachelor's and international master's students. Out of our whole student population of a bit over 20,000 students, nearly 2.6K are international students, so there's really a big amount, and most of our and about 11,000 of our students are bachelor students at this point, and 9,000 are master students, and most of those 2,600 are going to be master students. So at least over half of those students is in a master. The rest is in a few bachelors we also have. But not all of our bachelors are English taught. Well, most of our masters are. We also do very well. We've been nominated the best traditional university in the Netherlands for 5 or 6 years in a row now, and we offer a variety of top-rated programs. And those ratings have been given to us by the National Keuzegids, the university guide basically, and also by Elsevier. And they rank the universities every year based on how satisfied students are and what the quality of teaching is, etc. And we always do very well. That's also reflected in our positions on the rankings of the various higher education rankings, in which we always score very solidly within the top 200 and sometimes even the top 100. Well, then some more, I can show you some pictures actually about Nijmegen, so you can see it here. The top right, you see the city center. You see we have quite of a nice part of Old Town. On the left, you see people at it's one of the biggest cinemas in Europe, actually. It's one of the biggest art house cinemas. On the bottom left, you see one of the biggest festivals. Well, actually, it's the biggest festival in the Netherlands, and it's held here every summer. It's called the Vierdaagse Feesten, and the Vierdaagse is an event in which it's a walking event, basically. People walk for 40 kilometers a day, 4 days in a row, and every year, about 2.5 million people visit this event. And most of them come to party, but I think about 60 or 100,000 also do the walking part. So it's always a really big, real nice festival, and it's a really good reason to be in Nijmegen during the summer. And then on the right, in the bottom right, you see a view over the Old Town and the bike, which is very Dutch. We bike everywhere, and our bike lanes are very accessible. So I do think that if you want to come to the Netherlands, you will have to at least learn how to ride a bike. Well, then we've been talking about this a bit, but basically this is 10 reasons in short to study at our university. So we're internationally recognized. As you've seen by the rankings, we always do very well. We have the personal approach to teaching, as I said, and as a result, our diploma is also very valuable. If you have a diploma from Radboud University, employees all around the world know this is a good Dutch university, you are a good student. We have an extensive freedom of choice in courses, and most of our programs also offer room to incorporate electives. So if you find a program that suits you quite well, but you want to tailor-make it a bit more to suit your specific interest, then you can always take electives in those directions. The university itself also offers excellent services, which are most located on our campus, which is very nice and green, and you'll see a picture of it after. Yeah, we have a campus, and on the campus we have a lot of great things, such as a sports center. We have a university restaurant, a good library, we have state-of-the-art lecture halls, etc. So our university is well equipped, and you really have everything you need to study here. As I said as well, we have an international outlook. We have a lot of international students, and we really also want to create an international network of Radboud alumni. So if you study here, we pride ourselves, and we value it very much that you get in contact with as many people and as international of a crowd as you can, which also leads to good career prospects. And as I've said before, Nijmegen is an amazing city, and the location is also very good. Then I think the next picture is a picture of our campus, where you can see it. It's very nice, and it's nice and green. And in the middle, you see most of our university buildings. So on the bottom you see the Grootjesgebouw, which is where law is located, and then you see Spinozagebouw and the Thomas van Aquinostraat, which is a street where, for example, the Faculty of Social Sciences and Nijmegen School of Management is located. And then on the left you see, for example, the hospital, which is also part of the university, and the Faculty of Science. And on the top you see part of our sports center, with various sports courts on which you can play games, hockey, soccer, whatever you really want to do. Well, as I said, this is our campus. It's close to the city center, about a 10-minute bike ride. It's really modern, and it's getting more modern every day. We are actually currently renovating a lot of our buildings, so we're even improving it as we speak. And as I said, we have state-of-the-art facilities, and in particular, I'm really proud of our sports center, because I think it's one of the best in the Netherlands, at least. And you can really do everything you want there. All kinds of tickets, maybe. Yeah, do you use it often?
I'm not using it, but a lot of my classmates do, and it's cheap actually. It costs only, I think, 100 euros a year, or either you can pay 12 euros a month, something like that. But there is, I mean, a number of different activities you can do. I don't know, you can even do burlesque or some sort of dancing, and then football and climbing wall and wherever you actually want. Wherever comes into your mind, it's probably here.
Yeah, so you can see on the pictures, you can see something more. On the top left, that's the heart of the campus, basically the Erasmus Square. It's where the restaurant is located. The top right is the Gymnasium, which is where Nijmegen School of Management, my faculty, will be moving in 2018. And it's also where the sports center is located. The bottom left, you see a part of our university library. So you see that we have kind of lounge areas where you can just read your articles or your books in a more relaxed fashion. And on the left, we have computers available, and then we have additional other rooms as well in which you can study. And on the right, you see our campus, basically, which is one of the paths going through it. And as you see, it's very green and very lush, which makes it a really nice environment to be in. We have a variety of programs. Particular master's programs, for example, are programs in business and economics, computer science, humanities, medical sciences, law, language and communication, planning and human geography, public administration and political science, religion and philosophy, other science such as physics, chemistry, biology, and social and behavioral sciences such as psychology or pedagogy. And for almost all of our programs, we have English taught masters. So whatever really suits you, whatever you kind of want to study, you can find it here. Now, if you would like to study, well, maybe we should actually start about the programs, because maybe you could say something about your own study program.
Okay, so I'm studying creative industries. It's part of the cultural studies. Well, for me, it still is very exciting because the courses are very interesting. The professors are really the experts of their own field. For example, I'm taking the fashion course, which is my professor is Annika Smelik. She is one of the famous fashion professors. So you always get those insights. And also what I hear that professors here have to do researches. So they are constantly doing not only just doing lectures, but they also doing researches. So it means that they are always updating their own information. It's not like they learn someday something and then and talking about it all the time, but they are updating this information, and they have insights from practice and from theory, and so it's very interesting. It's very dynamic, and and of course, and as I mentioned before, the international students also brings all those insights from different cultures, which also enrich the process of the study as well.
Yeah, and I could maybe talk a bit about my own courses as well, or program. I finished political science recently, and I also thought it was a very good program. It was well constructed, and the teachers were both accessible and tried again to be to teach us in small scale groups. So we really had interactive discussions on a real high level, which taught me so much more than I would have expected to learn from a political science bachelor. And I really recognize what you said as well. All my teachers were not just teachers, they were also academics. So sometimes they would also learn from us, and we would give them new insights, and they could incorporate that into their research. And that is also part of the character of a research university in the Netherlands, to really combine education and academic. And I think that is very prevalent in both our programs.
Yeah, and also if you have some problems or struggles with your courses, you can always go to your professor and explain if something is wrong. Professors are very flexible. If you have any problems with the deadlines, if something happened to you, for example, you can always go there and ask them. they can extend the deadline if something is wrong or something like that. So yeah, they are very flexible. Or if you don't understand something, you can always go and ask, and they will explain. Maybe they will arrange a meeting with you or with a group of students. We did it on the previous block. We didn't get the idea of the concept that teacher were telling, so we arranged the meeting, and then she explained everything. So the professors are very flexible. They are very professional, experts of their own fields, but at the same time very friendly and helpful.
Okay, so to study here, of course, also costs money. Tuition fee is generally rather low, but I'll get into that later. But to study here as a student in a month, 740 is right about the budget you need. You always pay about 375, maybe a bit less for accommodation. It kind of depends where you're housed. You have to pay your textbooks and materials, of course. Living expenses include food and drink, and then you pay insurances for healthcare and to live here. And then, of course, contingencies, which can vary from my bike is broken to I want to go out another night, so I need a little more money. So I think 740, 750 euros is about what you have to think you need in a month. I'm not sure if you recognize that.
I spend less, actually. I think it depends on your expenses, of course, definitely. So for those who likes to go out and to clubbing or pubbing or whatever, it's kind of expensive. Or if you want, or if you like to dine out in the restaurants, so it's a bit expensive. But yeah, it's not. I mean, for me, I can live for 500 euros. It's enough for me.
Yeah, you can live quite cheap here if you really must. But the biggest cost is often the room. So I guess you also have a very cheap room.
Yeah. I pay quite less.
So that's quite nice. So the tuition fee here for European unions or European students, including Lithuania, it's 2,000 euros a year, a bit over, and you can get installments and loans for the tuition fee. For an admission, if you want to be admitted to one of our masters, then you need an equivalent of a Dutch bachelor's degree or higher, and the area of studies must be in the same field as the masters. This also means that they can put some sort of, for example, EC limit or requirement on the course you've taken. Some programs, for example, require a particular amount of statistical methods or research methods, or a particular amount in a particular theoretical field. You have to check for yourself what applies for each particular program. Furthermore, we have English language requirements because we do want our education to be interactive and not people just listening, and we want to make sure that you're also able to follow and interact with us. So we do require English language proficiency from you, which means that we need an IELTS score of 6.5 with various subscores, a TOEFL of 90 at least, or a minimum of a C on Cambridge CAE or CPE. Then, if you would like to apply here, there's a variety of deadlines. If you're applying for a bachelor's in general, you can go for all the other programs basically. But if you want to do the bachelor's in psychology, you're already late. So for all the programs, we take a 1 May deadline, and the 1 May deadline ensures if you apply before it that you get assistance from us in arranging accommodations, visas, etc. So you get additional assistance. Well, if you apply after the May 1 deadline, you're still able, you are possibly still able to be admitted, but we will not assist you any further in getting accommodation here, in arranging your visa, etc. So we do really urge you that if you know that you want to study here, that you apply before May, because then we can help you out the best. Would you like to apply to study at Radboud University? Then you can do that via Kastu. So you fill out the Kastu online application form and you upload the documents they need there, which include your passport, your diploma, your transcript of grades. And if you don't have that yet, because you haven't finished yet, we need your latest available transcript of grades. Then we also need translations of it if they're not in English. So we need it in English, Dutch, or in German, basically. We also need the English language certificate, if applicable, and a resume and a motivation letter, which also sometimes depend on the program you want to follow. But do make sure that you also check on our master's website what the particulars are. And then the process itself, Kastu arranges most things for you. So you apply via Kastu, you upload to Kastu, and then Kastu forwards all these things we need to us. We check it at our admission office to see if your diploma is of the right level and if you've provided all the documents we need. Then it goes to the examination board, which is program specific, and they check whether your previous education is suited enough to join in one of our master's programs. If they say yes, then you can directly enter our master. If they say no, then there's the possibility that you can either do a pre-master, which means that you need an extra year in which you do additional courses to get your knowledge up to date or up to speed, or you get rejected straight away. And then the admission decision is communicated back to you, basically. You have to accept your admission, and then you can enroll further and arrange the payments and eventually come here. Do you have any questions about the whole admission procedure or anything I've said up until now? You can always contact our admission office. You can see the information here below, and we also have various social media links, social media things you can follow and check if you want to get a feeling about what our campus is like. So we have the Facebook group, Radboud Prospective International Students, and we try to give prospective students as much information there as possible. We also have Twitter for Radboud Prospective Students. We have YouTube where we can look at videos from our campus, from things we do on the University of our education, etc. And then we also have an Instagram account where you can also get a feel of what our campus is like and what our education and our university is like. So I guess that concludes my presentation, basically, and we can now go to the questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, and I'll go through them throughout the speakers list. So the first question is from Victoria, and Victoria wants to know if we could talk a bit about scholarships and if it's hard to get those in Radboud. We have some scholarships available under the Radboud. Let me see. I have to look it up because I want to make sure that I say everything correctly and that I don't give any false information. So you have.
But those scholarships are mostly for people from non-EU countries like Brazil.
Yeah, the scholarships are mostly for non-EU countries. I do think you can get a loan to study here from the Dutch Ministry of Education. But we have, for example, the Dutch fellowship programs where that offer scholarships to a number of countries. I'm not sure if Lithuania is included at this point. And there's also, we have a service of Dutch student finance where EU students who want to do the program here are sometimes eligible for a student loan, but it really does depend on your personal situation, where you're from, etc. So I would suggest that you check our website, and I'll paste the link in the Hangout, and that you check there which scholarship might apply to you and whether you're eligible for it.
Yeah, exactly. So we have also more questions, but I will give for Mark to answer, because as an administrator I can see them. So the first question from Justus, he's asking about job situation in Netherlands. Exactly, maybe in your city, the Radboud.
Do you mean as a student? Well, I can talk about both of it anyway. As a student, most students here have jobs, or a lot of them do. Have a job next to their education, and it can vary from working at a bar or working at a shop to working at the university. We also have jobs here. It does kind of depend whether you're eligible for a work visa, so you have to check that out on a individual basis.
I think, yeah.
Do you have a job?
No, I don't have a job, but it's a funny thing. I was also planning to get a job once I come here, but I should say that you should prepare or save some money in advance, because it's when you will get here, all the studies, different language, different city, everything is kind of overwhelming, and you're not gonna have so much time that you are expecting. And so yeah, it's not, you need to prepare to study a lot here. So I actually didn't have time for a job. And the other thing is that for most of the jobs, employees expect you to learn to have Dutch skills. or to speak in Dutch, especially if it's like in a service where you have to communicate with clients. So, for example, a waitress or sales assistant or so on. So, but I know that some Lithuanians are working, and mostly most students are working in the kitchen or in the warehouses. So more like at those jobs where you don't have to communicate.
Yeah, more like the back office jobs. I also used to work in the kitchen actually, and I also used to work with some Spanish students. So I do know there are students getting jobs here. It's a bit harder, of course, than in Lithuania, but it is possible if you really want to, and you can combine it. As for career prospects later on in the Netherlands or Nijmegen, it really does depend on your study program. The career prospects are different for every program. However, as I said already, you are graduating from a Dutch university, so internationally speaking, they're very well regarded, including our university, and you should have no problem getting into interesting functions either in Lithuania or somewhere else abroad with our degree. You do really have a seal of quality if you study from Radboud University, and you are desirable for employers, basically.
Right, the next question from Thomas would be, what are the main difference between studies in Lithuania and the Netherlands? My master's degree in Netherlands is better for me.
Sorry, the main difference between studies in Lithuania and in the Netherlands?
My master degrees in Netherlands is better for me.
Okay, yeah, I can tell you. I know I have some friends who are studying masters in Lithuania, and well, they are not very happy about it. But yeah, you have to understand that the quality are so much higher here, and I can compare that because I was studying bachelor in Lithuania. So it's, yeah. For me, it was probably the best decision I ever take to come here and study, because here you can get all this information and everything and theories, and everything is implemented very well, and you get also the experience of being abroad. You will find some people from other countries that you can, later do some projects maybe or whatever. So. And as you mentioned, that the diploma is much more valuable than Lithuanian one, actually. So.
Okay. The next question: what your master programs have highest rankings?
Which of our master's programs have the highest rankings? I don't know by heart, to be honest. I have to look it up. But I know, for example, that a program in physics has among the highest rankings, which makes sense, seeing that we haven't had a Nobel Prize recently. My own program, the program in political science, is also doing very well. Let me check. Let me see. Okay, I have the list here. So other very good programs for us are behavioral science, cognitive neuroscience, and molecular mechanisms of disease. So we're also very good in medical sciences, basically. Anthropology, artificial intelligence, public administration, the research master in history, law, sociology, and linguistics. Those are all very good. In addition to physics, for example, political science, which I already mentioned, those are all the best programs in the Netherlands, to be honest, in their fields. And then the rest of our programs always ranks in the top 2 or 3. So all of our master's programs really are of high quality.
All right, thank you. And one more question: what are possibilities after finishing medical biology study program?
Well, there's plenty, of course. You can become an academic. You can start doing research here at the university, or in a hospital, for example. You can work in the fields. You can work for companies. I have a friend who did what's it called, biomedical sciences, which is related, and she now works for a company as a quality controller for a company that makes implants, for example. So there's really wide variety of possible places you can go, which is for most of our studies, but also for medical biology.
All right, and we are going to the next question. And the next question sounds like that. How much master cost? How about accommodation?
As I said, tuition fee for our masters is 2,006 euros. So that's for all of our masters, basically. Accommodation really varies between where you find an accommodation. Some of the accommodations offered by the university are rather cheap. They range between 250 and 275, I think, and sometimes, but they can also go up to 400, which of course gets you more accommodation, but for a foreign student might be less attractive. And then you can also rent in the private market in Nijmegen, which is extensive. And their accommodations also range from, well, 200 to 500 to 600 or up. It really depends on what your budget is, but there is a big range of possibilities. And it's more of a matter of looking for the right fit and looking well for what you want than whether it's available, I would argue.
And as far as I know, it's cheaper than, for example, in Hague or Amsterdam.
Nijmegen is cheaper than other universities in the Netherlands or than other cities in the Netherlands. It's much cheaper, for example, than Amsterdam or than Utrecht or than Eindhoven, for example. So, but some other cities are also cheaper than us. So there's no real, can't really say we're the cheapest, but we are very affordable, and there is a big variety of options for accommodation.
All right. So I see that some of the questions that were given by attendees are repeating from the content side. So I will skip those that we have covered during the presentation, just to make sure we will save some time and answer questions that were not covered during the presentation, during the slides. So as well, just short question, do you have master studies in social work?
In social work?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a particular master study in social work, but we do have master studies in psychology or pedagogical sciences or science of education, anthropology and sociology. And in particular, psychology and pedagogical sciences are related because they do help you deal with, for example, psychological problems, children or child development problems, for example. So there's no real direct social work masters here, but there are masters that would prepare you very well for social work. And I think that's also one of the things that is particular by the research university. We don't really have programs that prepare you directly for a specific type of job. The exception being maybe our medicine program, which prepares you to be a doctor specifically. But our other programs all prepare you to be an academic, to be somebody who is good in a specific field or a specific discipline and knows how to think analytically and within his field and make choices and solve complex puzzles. And that's not a particular skill that makes you a very good social worker, for example, but it is a skill that you need and that you can apply as a social worker. So I think that's also the difference between our research universities or universities of applied sciences and your universities and collegias.
Yes.
All right. The next question sounds like that. What is the hardest part of studying in Radboud? For example, talking about biology, microbiology master, what kind of examining system is used?
Okay. So I don't know anything about biology and microbiology, but for me, for example, my exam so far was that not multiple answer questions, but I had to write essays and submit it until the deadline. And I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, about microbiology, I know that they, for example, have to do internships and they have to do experiments. So they really have to be in laboratories and do, well, microbiology there, and also do field work if applicable, and also do that in a research context. So they will have to make a research proposal, do the field work or the experiment, and then present the results in a concise and coherent manner. So it's the full academic experience, and that's hard, but it's also fun and challenging. So I think those are among the hardest, but also among the best parts of studying here.
Okay. Is it possible to send your IELTS results later than the 1st of May?
Yes, I think so. But before, like, but you should inform us, and we can't fully process your application if you don't send your IELTS result. So both your application will be delayed, and the longer it's delayed, the less likely it is that we can help you get a visa or get accommodation. So yes, you can send your IELTS results later, but they do delay your application as well, with all the consequences.
Okay. The next question, talking about loans, is it possible to work and study and survive? Smile.
To work and study and survive. Well, I think it is. For example, I did it. I used to work and I used to study, so I worked 40 to 50 hours a week. A month. And in addition, I studied, and then in addition to that, I had a loan. So I combined the three, and I had about 800 to 1,000 euros a month, and it was plenty to survive here. And I'm doing quite well. So I would say that it is.
Alrighty. How many hours per week you're able to work as a student, and what is the average salary for students per hour?
I think it's 12 or something.
Well, it really depends on where you work. For example, we do have minimum wages in the Netherlands, which is somewhere around 10 an hour, I think, so 10 euros. And some companies pay minimum wage. If you work at university, for example, you get a bit more. You get somewhere around 12 and a half or something. So it really does vary where you work. How much can you work next to your studies? Well, it depends on a few things. It depends on what type of program you're doing. For example, if you're doing microbiology, then you're expected to do experiments and to just be on the university much more than, for example, if you did my program, political science, which is a lot of studying, but it's a lot of studying in my own time. I can decide when I study, and I have less lectures regularly. So that gives me more flexibility to work at specific times and to study at others. As I said, I studied for 10 hours a week. I thought that was doable, and if I really had to, I could study more. For example, I could work more, for example, by working more in weekends or working more during the evenings. And I know of students who've worked 20 or 30 hours a week on top of doing their program, which is either bachelor's or master's. But that's really heavy. That is really heavy, and I wouldn't recommend it. So I would say that somewhere between 10 and 15 hours a week is very doable, and I could recommend that.
All right. One more question. Do you have any programs related to translation and interpretation?
I don't think we have a particular program related to translation and interpretation, but we do have linguistics programs and various language programs, of course. So you could learn a language and become a translator through that, probably with some additional postgraduate schooling. And we also have the School of Pedagogical Sciences, as I said, where you could be a translator for mutes or deafs, for example. So no, there's no specific translation program, but there are programs in both linguistics and pedagogical sciences which equip you with the possibilities to become a translator later on.
All right, so we have still a few minutes, and one more question. What determines enrollment? Assessment, references, language skills?
Well, we determine whether you're eligible or whether you're admissible on a few things. Important is English proficiency. As I said, you need to have that covered. Important is that the degree you've had is of similar quality to the degree we expect. So if you come from a collegia in Lithuania, for example, you're most likely going to have to do a pre-master's because your level of knowledge is not the level of knowledge we expect you to have when you enter a master's. If you've done a bachelor's at a university in Lithuania, then there's a better chance that your level is already at the level we expect. And even then, we might still expect you to do a pre-master. So the level of the diploma, as we assess it, and English are the two most important ones, to be fair.
All right. Some more questions. What about mechanical studies? Do we have any of them or not really?
No, we don't really have any mechanical engineering studies. Those are usually provided by, we have a few technical universities in the Netherlands, which offer more technical studies such as engineering and mechanical engineering.
All right. What about creative industries or marketing? Do you have studies related to that?
Well, you do creative industries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we also have marketing, which is part of our business administration programs.
And I think there is also international business communication as
Yeah.
well, so there are plenty of options.
All right, I see that we have a lot of questions going on, but we're limited to that time, so I will just pick a few of the questions. And if your question will not be answered during this webinar, I would strongly suggest to contact directly Mark or Kastu team. For sure, we'll give the answers for all your questions. So, and finally, just a few more questions. How long usually lasts the day at university? How many lectures you have?
Okay, so me, for example, I usually have 1 or 2 lectures a day, which last for one lecture is about 1.5 hours, I think, and then 2 weeks, 3 hours. For example, now I have 2 courses, and I have classes on Monday, on Friday, and on Tuesday. So it seems that I have a lot of free time, but there are a lot of homework to do. I mean, you have to prepare for every lecture, and I think it takes more time than the actual lecture.
Yeah, I, for example, had somewhere between 3 and 6 hours a day as well, sometimes during my masters, but divided, like, for example, in 3 days. So I had 2 whole days off, but I did have to study those days. And for example, if you work, then you can also work those days. For other studies, as I've already said, chemistry, biology, for example, medicine, those that require more experiments or more field work, then you're going to be in university longer. The upside is that you're probably going to have to do less at home, because you can do more of what is required of you at the university, as opposed to having to do things at home or in your own time. So it's a balance, and it differs for every program.
All right, so thank you very much for your answers, and of course questions that were written by attendees. And I guess for this moment, I would like to say that we are finishing our webinar, and I would like to thank you, first of all our attendees that were watching this webinar and who are interested in the University of Radboud. And as well, I would like to say thank you for those participants, for those university representatives that were covering and giving for us a presentation and slides about the university, about all the enrollment process and all the other stuff. So thank you guys for participating. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving the questions. And as I mentioned before, if you're still having some questions that were not covered during this webinar, please contact directly Radboud representatives, or also you can contact directly Kastu team in Poland or Lithuania. So I think we are finishing, and just saying good luck and goodbye, and especially for ones who are enrolling into the studies in Radboud University, I wish you to success and start a new season, start a new life in another country, and get something special from that. So thank you, and I'm saying for this now, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.